And I brought two people to join me because I don't know everything. And they have very different perspectives and experiences. So I asked Javi and Kim to join me and
Their chairs here.
better illuminate this
Yeah.
conversation. If y'all don't mind, this is Javi. Javi's with 510 South. And this is Kim, otherwise known as Kimmy Eats. Is it Kimmy Eats Local? Just Kimmy Eats Tucson. Kimmy Eats Tucson. Yeah.
So later on, go and chat with all of them and have conversations about their lives, what they like, what they don't like. But let's get started with some questions here about how do we connect and how do you connect? And the first one I have here again, it's when you're writing a story, looking for a story, are there any like 2 or 3 key elements you're looking for when you're writing? Kathy, I'll start with you. Good question. You need a drink to think about that? Yeah. I need something stronger than coffee.
Yeah. Wow. Key elements. I'm looking for a story. You know, I don't want to just do a story. I cover mostly, when it comes to restaurants, I cover the business end of restaurants. And so I'm looking for a good story. You know, I don't want to just say such and such restaurant is opening. I want to tell the story of who they are, what they're bringing to the table, you know, and what their restaurant's about, what their personal story is about. So I have, you know, I tend to have conversations with people when I'm, you know, working on food stories. They sometimes go beyond food, you know, because sometimes there's a different motivation for them wanting to get into a restaurant, which I think all of you people who own, how many people here own restaurants? I think you all are crazy, but I also applaud you. You know, you guys know it's a hard business, you know, and so especially when you're getting someone who's new to it or someone who's expanding, you know, they're like deciding, oh, I'm going to go ahead and open my 3rd restaurant, and it's like, are you crazy? You know, those are the kind of interesting stories, and I think that. Food brings people into a restaurant, but I also think personalities bring people into a restaurant. You know, you're going to go into a restaurant if you feel connected, and so I like to find that human element and connection.
Anything highlights again of what you're looking for?
Yeah, so I do social media, and much like Kathy, I also look for those stories, but the challenge that social media poses is that people's attention spans are a lot shorter, right? It's not an article where you're sitting down, so you have to be able to capture basically everything that Kathy would write about, but in 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So finding those stories about people, but using imagery and music to convey those experiences.
So for you, it's like you have to get that 30-second, 20-second
Right.
time block.
Yeah.
Kathy, you're looking for more of the story that you can publish and write about. Shane, when you're doing, again, for Tucson Foodie, what are you looking for? What elements?
Okay, so you got to make me care. I think there's a feeling I'm looking for when a story comes my way, and just maybe bear with me because it's going to sound a little cheesy at first, but I want to feel love. I think that what's powerful about stories is it's an opportunity to better understand somebody, and you can't help but love somebody if you hear their story. Like love equals understanding in a way, right? So if I hear a story and I don't feel something where I'm like, I love this person, then it's not an interesting story. It's not going to resonate with our audience. So I look for that feeling of understanding, of love. So make me care, and there's a few ways to do that off the bat. To Kimmy's point, like we got to hook people right away, or that 37 seconds that people spend on average reading a Tucson Foodie story is going to drop to 2 seconds, and then they're going to bounce. And I think there's a few ways to do that. One, arousing my curiosity, like right off the bat. Creating tension right off the bat. You know, this is why all those murder mystery things like just keep coming out, even though they're all the same damn thing. Because like right away it's like, this person did this thing. Did he really do it? And you're like, you instantly open up a mystery, and people, like, your curiosity comes up. There's tension, there's conflict. Like, you've got them hooked. And they're like, wait, what is the story even about? I don't even know yet. I want to learn more. So make me care right off the bat. And then there's something I think I might add that y'all haven't said yet, and that is keep it real. There's so much crap out there, and there are so many restaurants, if I can be specific about restaurants, that paint a rosy picture, and they feel like they have to do that. Maybe they're afraid that if they are a little bit vulnerable and reveal the realities of restaurant life, that people won't come. But the opposite is absolutely true. And the restaurateurs and the food artisans that I see killing it on social media, and the stories that actually work on Tucson Foodie. By the way, our long form stories bomb constantly, right? So I'm saying no to them more often than saying yes. But the ones I'm saying yes to are kind of they're emotional. There's some vulnerability in there. So I think people know, like your diners, your customers, they know, like they know that it's hard, and so as soon as you're like, oh, everything's great here, we're growing, like there's a lot of drama in I want to see the drama. That's how they get hooked. So bring out the drama, keep it real. I think Ches Peachy does an incredible job. She's one of the only. I was just telling somebody the other day. She's the only Instagram account that I think about that I need to go check on to see like what's going on with her, because she's like just putting her heart out there, and her following is exploding, and her revenue is exploding, and she just moved into a commercial kitchen, and she's just on Instagram saying, "Ugh, like I just had a customer cancel an order after I made it. Like I hate customers." She's giving examples of how much she hates customers. That's amazing, right? And then it just explodes, and people are like, "Oh my God, I love you. This is so amazing. Thank you for being real. I would never cancel on you. We love your cakes." Because customers suck, right? Gary?
I cannot confirm or deny. That's it.
Make me care, spark my curiosity, keep it real, bring out your authenticity, bring out the drama. That's what I look for in a store.
Good. What do you think? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, really, Shane kind of touched on a lot of that stuff. I mean, so many times when we were, I work from a social media element as well. And when I'm talking to my clients about how to expand their brand, I want them just to be themselves. I mean, so many times we have so many accounts that try and imitate this account and imitate this account and imitate this account. But in reality, your story, your experience with customers, your experience in the restaurant what you show needs to match your experience within the restaurant. When I walk into a restaurant and it doesn't feel like these super high-end polished photos, people catch on to that right away, and they're like, this isn't the same experience that I have when I'm on their Instagram or when I'm on their Facebook. So, staying true to what got you there, staying true to the experience that customers have is a great way to sell, because you'll never go wrong. You'll never go wrong when I'm talking to Shane, hey, can you guys put this up? Yeah, but it looks like this or this or this. Who are they for real? When we're asking them, we're presenting a brand that is true to them. Gary just did a great video, and Gary, they do a great job of just having that punk rock feel to like who they are. And if you've met Gary, that's who he is. Travis from the Delta and the Parish, same thing, right? Graffiti on the wall, punk rock posters, purples, bright colors, cool cars, rock music. That's who these guys are. So we're creating with hip hop and doing these things. So when we bring it to these publications and to these authorities on these things, we can feel very confident in saying, this is what you can give your readers. This is the experience they're going to have. We're not fronting on anything. This is who we are, and that's just what it is, So we feel confident within that.
They're gonna have to censor this, buddy. Sorry.
That's also who I am as well. So.
So now we're over 18 classifications for our content. So if you see the common trend is stories behind the product, the restaurant, because of the noise that's out there. Gloria, your products, your tepica, your salsas. If you go to the supermarket right now, how many salsas are in an aisle? Thousands. How do you stand out with a great product, but then a story behind it? And again, you've done very good in telling the story, the chiltepin, and what's about it. So I think that will make it unique. So thinking about those stories, anyone, Shane, you reference someone that you follow and you like, who do you follow? Who do you see or read that inspire you, or a success story of someone that has done something really cool in connecting and using media, either social media or main publications to tell their story? Who can you share?
Right at me, huh?
Sorry.
So a little bit about me. I started off with a baking business from home, and that's sort of how I got into the social media sphere. And I think Shay Peachy will have to tag her in these. We come from the same background where she started as a home-based business, and I saw her grow. Coming from a different perspective that maybe Shane has, because we were in the same world, I kind of saw what she was doing, and yeah, like she told this story, like the story of what it actually took to be a home-based business, and just seeing how far she came as a peer rather than an outsider. It really is amazing to see how much she's grown, and yeah. So another plug at Shay Peachy.
Anyone you follow, see, read that you say, wow, that's a great case of how they've used connecting with media, social media.
Not really. I mean, I'm all over the board, you know, so I mean, I don't, because these guys are in a different realm than I am, you know, and a lot of mine that I do is news-based. So that was another thing I wanted to say. When you guys are pitching stories, make sure you have a news angle. You know, don't pitch and say, hey, you know, I've had a couple of restaurants who've reached out to me and said, oh my God, we're doing so horribly. Can you write a story? It's like, no, I'm not your advertiser. I mean, give me a news angle. And it could be a very loose news angle. It could be an anniversary. It could be that you've changed up your menu, but it can't be that you've hired a new manager, because that happens daily, you know. So, no, but I will put a plug in for my former colleague, Andy Berlin. I follow her so much. She's incredible. I don't know. Do you guys know her? Yeah. Andy Berlin. She was at Tucson Foodie. She's now in New York. And she is killing it. If you want to like look at some of her stuff, she really does some amazing work. So,
any story that you have written that you remember, like, oh, that was a good plot, that was a nice angle that you think that was. I mean, you talk about seasonality, new ingredients. Anything that you remember from your stories recently, like, oh, that was a really good.
Well, I will point out Bandit Barbecue. I thought that I thought that his story of keeping the personality of the business, of the building and the history of the building, even though the history of the building is a little bit sordid, I thought that was a really great story. You know, I thought that I had fun with that story.
Yeah, go to the bar and check it out. The carvings are still
Yeah.
there. It's really, really. And I know people have gone, like, oh, they're still, I put these back 20 years ago.
We're putting on the shirts, fewer stabbings, more barbecue.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes.
Wow. I like I will have no stabbings and more barbecue. Fewer. Yeah. Shane, anyone else that you have?
I'm struggling to come up with an example. But
We have to do some cocktails at 6 p.m.
yeah, well, you should ask me to. Yeah, you should ask me to bring some examples. I could have found some good stuff. And we all have our favorite books and movies that we love, and the stories that hook us in, right? Some great children's books do that really succinctly and efficiently. There's something that we keep talking about, but we haven't like directly addressed it, and that is when you are crafting a story, you have to think about who your audience is. And so you're pitching a story to us, Kathy, me, whatever, or even to your social media like marketing person, or if you're doing it yourself, you've got to think. Cause actually, Hannah, who runs our social media, says no to stuff to me all the time. I'm like, let's put this on social. People love it. She's like, people are not gonna like this. What's the story here, man? What is this? This is just boring. And don't be afraid. And this is, I think, the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make. They make this mistake when they're pitching to investors. They make this mistake in their own newsletters and their own social media, etc. They don't think about a specific audience. They try to think about everybody in Tucson, just all the people in Tucson who need to eat, which is literally the entire population. But that's not your customer base. Your customer base is a smaller segment of the overall population. Who are the people that come in? And you need to think very specifically about it and write stories for that person and talk to them. Not, you know what, this is the age range. That's not a good way to think about. Don't break up your audience in terms of demographics. Think about the situation that they're in, the feelings that they have, the experiences that they've had, why they're coming. That's why Travis's and Gary's content works and their restaurants are successful, because they don't water themselves down. at risk of turning people off, right? They're punk rock, they're a little bit crude, they're funny, right? Yeah, you're crude. You're a rude, crude dude, bag of pre-chewed fruit. What's that? Come on, Robin Williams, Hook. Okay. And so their fans like love them. They come all the time. You get a lot of regulars. Yeah, they love you, right? Your personality. And there might be some people who are like, I don't like that. Like, I don't like Travis's punk rock stuff. I don't like Shez Peachy or Shay Peachy. You know, she talks about her religion a little bit. She cries. I'm sure a lot of people get turned off. But people who get turned on are super fans. And they tell their friends and they show up and they buy again and again and again. That's how you win. You don't boil it down for everybody, worrying about turning some people off. So when you write a story, when you pitch a story to us, think about the person that's going to read it, the person you want to read it, who will come in, who will take the action you're looking them, you hope they'll take. Don't worry about the people who are going to go, ugh. Don't change your story for those people. They're not going to be your customer anyway.
Flavors of food are specific.
Food is highly subjective.
Yep.
Yeah, it's highly subjective, so if you want a specific flavor, then you should be pitching that specific flavor to specific people, yeah.
Well said, Colby.
Yeah, I think, I mean, from social media standpoint, inspiration is kind of every day you're online, kind of finding the way that someone gets across something cooler than you can do, right? So, you know, I'm inspired a lot by emotion, right? I'm inspired a lot by my city, the way that things that are going on in the city. I'm inspired by how people present things. I kind of look at the elements of things that I think are cool, pull them out, and try and use them to make it unique to a brand that I'm working for. So Old Pueblo Curiosities did a really cool piece on cactus logos, the history of the logos of saguaros here in Tucson. Very inspiring for me. Am I going to do that? No. But the way that she presented that and the time and effort, there's so many elements that can be inspiring for a piece that maybe I do on a coffee shop that we work with, and how their history of their logo changing can develop, or how she presented it in a way that was so relatable. It's not, you know, this 8K big production thing. It's her on a green screen talking about these cool logos. So I think when I'm looking for inspo and who inspires me on a story level, I'm trying to take elements of things that I just think is cool. Because us as a brand, we don't want to look like anyone else. We want to be different, and we want our clients and our customers to understand that that's what's important. So we try and take those elements out and then add their own into there. But I'm very inspired by the city, very inspired by all the creatives here in town, and try and take some of those elements, make it our own, and then ask them to work with us or ask them questions of collaborators. Kimmy does really cool pieces that are these dark, moody, fun things that, again, very inspiring. You look at the elements of that. She explained on one of her videos that it's so intuitive to think I need to show a full restaurant. So when someone sees my restaurant, they see, look at all these people here. Look at all these things that are going on. It's bubbling, it's popping, everything is going great, right? Kimmy presented it from a perspective of, I want you, and I don't mean to speak for you, Kim, but she presented it from a form of I present it as an empty restaurant that's deep and moody, because I want you to imagine yourself in this restaurant. Imagine the experience you're gonna have. Place yourself within there. So I think, you know, I'm inspired by people that are directly working within the market that I'm working in, because it's easier to get through to them if they're seeing her ridiculous 30,000 freaking view videos. I'm just hating on it because I don't get that on my videos. But you know, it's cool. It's cool to take those elements. So I'm very inspired by, you know, the local concepts and seeing things that Watch Next Level does with what they did with Gary and all the cool stuff they're doing. So very much inspired by the local scene, and just trying to take things and also asking them, hey, what did you do here? What was your thought process here? It's easier to do that than a, you know, 30 million view video that they don't answer your DMs, when I can go straight to Michael and say, yo, and he's like, yeah, cool. So.
I'll give you a few seconds to think about this. When do you, and you mentioned Gary, Travis, which individual do you think that has done a great job in becoming the brand of the restaurant food product? And Don Guerra is one of them that people think about Barrio Brer, and I think before thinking of bread, they think of him, of Don. There's a restaurant, and to me, that's kind of an amazing achievement. There's a restaurant that the owner, that he tells his staff, if there's guests in the restaurant and they ask, have you seen this person? Says, I might be on vacation somewhere else. Tell them that, yes, I was in the kitchen a few minutes ago. Because people get this excitement about like, oh, I might run into that person in the restaurant. And I've seen it. I've been there and I hear people chatting in the line like, oh, I've heard that X person is here. And then, of course, the people are kind of like, yeah, he was cleaning the bathroom a few minutes ago. And I know for a fact that they were like 1,000 miles away from Tucson. But it's that people connecting and becoming the brand. And individuals, and of course, I already give 3 names out there, aside of Gary and Don and Travis, sorry. Or you can tell them, you can also say that.
Yeah, so I mean, I was going to say Travis, and it's not necessarily because he always shows his face in a video. It's because the social media managers they respond in the same way Travis would respond, right? So it's the right use of emojis, and it really shows his personality. Rocco is another one. Again, not because he is showing his face. He's not talking in all his videos. I don't think Rocco would be someone to do that anyway, but it's the way he posts, his humor comes through, the way he responds. It's not like an automated AI response where he's like, I'm sorry, we'll get back to you. It's just very much him. You can tell who owns the restaurant just by the way he interacts with everyone, the stuff he posts, and sometimes some of it is just kind of funny things that he thinks are funny, and it doesn't even have to be directly related to a special or new hours. But yeah, so showing your personality whenever you can.
Kathy, anyone that you think of?
Maria Mazon. She's gotten such national attention, and she's really strategically banked on that. Not in a, throwing herself all the way out there, but she's strategically built that reputation. And I was so thrilled when she put her name on the restaurant. When it wasn't Boca anymore, it was Boca by Maria Mazon. I just thought that's the perfect, label, and that restaurant deserves that name on it because she's built a reputation. And
She's in a new show in the Food Network. Check it out.
Yeah.
Competing with Guy Fieri. So yeah, cool stuff. Shane.
Felipe Garcia.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna start my food cart very soon. Not kidding.
No, I mean, I'm serious. You're a great storyteller. You're a huge personality. When people hear Visit Tucson, I'm like, oh, Felipe. Yeah, I know that guy, right? He's always out in the community, big personality. Devin Sanner, right? We got Wendy at Tumerico.
Yeah.
We've got Sally at the Coronet. I'm glad you brought this up. This is actually like how I fell in love with Tucson. I moved here 10 years ago. So let me tell a quick story. I'll try.
Do we need a drink?
So 10 years ago, almost to this day, actually. Not true, but that like really embellished the story, right? I found myself in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn Express, signing with my, at the time, wife, signing my divorce papers on the hood of our car. And then she wasn't my wife, right? So, on my way to Tucson, moving here from Omaha, Nebraska. How much of this do you think is true? It's all true. Including the fact that it was about 10 years ago. It was in May, about 10 years ago. And I moved here, and I didn't want to move here. I didn't even know anything about Tucson. I literally had to Google Maps it when I found out that the Air Force was moving us here. We had put in a request with the Air Force. She was a doctor in the Air Force. We got to pick 20 cities that they might put us in. They put us in 0 of those cities, and they put us in this place called Tucson, Arizona. And I was like, okay. So I Google Maps it, but I didn't look at any images of the city. Started driving, signed the divorce paperwork, got here, found out that the saguaros were real. I swear to God, I thought it was Hollywood. Didn't know. It was driving in from the east, came over, saw the mountains, and I was like, wow, Tucson has a bunch of mountains. This is great. But was very lonely, very sad, and didn't want to move here. Was so unprepared. Remember we got here, my ex-wife was like, hey, help me unload into my new apartment. And I was like, oh, I got to get an apartment. So I stayed in Airbnbs for 2 months, bounced around, in and out of all, constantly moving my stuff. Had somebody break into my car and steal about half my stuff. It wasn't until I found, and this is a true story, don't I'm not lying. It wasn't until somebody told me about Tucson Foodie on Instagram. I was like, follow Tucson Foodie, Shane. There's a lot of stuff going on in Tucson. It doesn't suck. There's a lot of interesting things going on. You're not looking hard enough. Because on the surface, Tucson can look a little like just a bunch of dirt, you know? And that's intentional because dirt is permeable and it absorbs the water, and that's great. It's not all paved over like Phoenix. But yeah, I went down to the Coronet at the old location, and one of my first friends was Sally. And I think of Tucson, I think of Sally. Then I met Devin. And then I met Wendy. You walk into Tumerico back when she just had one location. Hola, chico. Ooh, guapo. You know, she gives you a hug. And then at some point she met my daughter and she forgot about me. It's the people, right? And so many restaurateurs and food artisans are just, look at my product, look at my restaurant. You gotta put yourself out there, man. The ones that are successful are known by their people. I mean, I know, like when I think about where am I gonna go eat tonight, I think, well, maybe I'll go see my favorite bartender. Maybe I'll go see Wendy. I know I'm gonna get love. The food will be good. But for me, it's like, yeah, of course, there's a lot of good food here. But like, I don't want to let Wendy down. I don't want to let Gary down. Like, I want to walk in. I want him to see that I showed up for him, and then I want to have a great meal, and I want to feel loved, and he's going to say hi to me. You know, we got to put ourselves. I think we need to put ourselves out. All of us need to put ourselves out there more, and Tucson Foodie needs to start doing that too. So we're going to try to start figuring that out. We had a lot of long form stories where we tell chef stories. They just don't work anymore. So we have a responsibility and an opportunity to try to do that, because I think that's how we get more people to visit Tucson and and support local, buy local, go to places, look at these people, look at their stories, look at the struggles they went through.
Love it.
Yeah, let's figure it out.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I would say the parish, when I think about them, and I know Travis is very firmly associated, of course, as being an owner, but Steve Dunn, who also is the parish, is like the man. That guy just works a room really well. He's so charming and just does a really good job of associating like the energy and atmosphere of the restaurant. Chefs can be intense and intense and late, and Steve is just like cool. He's just a guy you want to hang out with, a guy you want to drink with. He makes cool cocktails. The bar, their bar program is just so renowned, and so does such an amazing job of just coming up with creative concepts and inspiring nationwide with the cocktails that they do. And Steve is the driving force behind all of that. Like he's just when I think of like wanting to spend money there, sometimes it's just like I want to spend money there just to see if Steve's there, just to kind of hang out with him. And so yeah, that would be kind of someone that I feel like is a very good representation and a good face for the parish and what he was doing at the Delta.
So the person's important. I want to ask one more question, and I will hopefully encourage you to think about questions you might have for our panel. So any trends that we're seeing right now that you think that, oh, it's cool to know, it's fascinating, we're seeing good success in those stories. Are there any trends?
Start with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cocktails, we're in that path.
So nice.
Yeah.
It was so nice when you were asking Kim first.
You were just
Yeah.
telling me yesterday that you're obsessed with the following, making sure you're on top
Yeah,
of trends.
so right now for the year, SEO is going to be a big thing. Utilizing SEO within your copy and your captions. Noticing that social media is being used more as a search engine or just as much as a search engine. So when you're writing your captions for all of your posts, make sure you include, hey, are you here at the Tucson Gem Show? Because they are trying to make that show up within all searches. So if I go to Instagram and type in Tucson Gem Show, this is going to pop up. Whereas before, it might have been only hashtags, or it might have been, they weren't scrubbing those captions. So now they're scrubbing your actual captions, as well as SEOing your bio inside of social media and Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, making sure you're putting in there Tucson Mexican restaurant or whatever the case may be, just those quick things that describe who you are. So SEO is supposed to be a really big thing for the year. They're noticing a lot of these social media platforms are switching to, they're stepping into being able to use that stuff. So it's, when people that are 20 to 40 years old or because when you tell me about a restaurant, I'm going to their Instagram first, not because I work at it, but because, you know, my wife does the same thing. Like, we're going to look in the Instagram and seeing what it is. So making sure you optimize your page and making sure you have the right words that describe your restaurant and that are going to get you foot traffic. It's nice to put like cool cocktails in there, but look, the reality is that Instagram views don't equate money, right? We need those certain viewers within a certain area that will come in and walk through the door. So I could talk about it a lot, but I'll save some stuff for them.
Shane,
I have people that follow trends because it's just like the rate of change is increasing, you know, and I can't handle the whole chasing trends thing. I can't. So I got Hannah, tap into Javier, Kim, you know, I can't handle it. But I think there's something to be said about like people, as soon as people have been telling stories forever. Like we've been drawing stuff on rocks, trying to explain, like tell stories to future generations. I think that there's still like the tried and true formula, the hero's journey, that will always resonate, regardless of how we need to start following these trends on how we present stories, how we capture people's attention. Yes, we need to stay on top of that. You're probably going to fail if you try to do it yourself as a restaurateur. You should probably hire these people because it's just like too much. Chasing the next generation feels impossible to me. But when you're crafting a story for media, when you're thinking like about all your content, regardless of how you chop it up and where you're going to put it, I still think like old school classic storytelling, hero's journey. Everything was fine. There was a balance, and then suddenly an incident happened. It's the incident, right? It creates conflict. There's drama. Out of that, there's struggle. Yet you're forced to make decisions, and then there's the rise, and then there's this new state, this new balance, and you've been changed as a result. Like that's the arc of a story. It's always been that way. It's never going to change. It's how our brains think, right? It's what hooks us in what we want to follow, helps us empathize because we've all struggled and been on our own journeys. So, take comfort in the fact that the formula of a story, I don't think is going to change. What do you think, Kathy?
Kathy, what do you think?
I agree with that. As far as trends, I don't follow a lot of trends. I mean, but I would say that when we are doing stories, here's one thing I advise all of you. So many times I will call a restaurant and I'll say, hello, is so-and-so there? And they'll say, no, they're not there. And can I take a message? I say, yeah, this is Cathalena Burch with the Arizona Daily Star. And they're like, oh yeah, they don't want an ad, click.
Oh.
And it's like, and then I'll call them back and I'll say, okay, before you hang up on me, I'm not selling you an ad. I'm trying to give you free advertising. Could you have them call me back? So when we call, I involve a lot of restaurants in stories that I'm doing that are like overarching stories. I will reach out to other restaurants, not necessarily just one restaurant. And so if you get a reach out from, any of us, we're not trying to sell you an ad. At least I'm not trying to sell you an ad. I'm trying to give you an opportunity to get some exposure. One of the things that I like to do is I do promote. I like to focus on locally owned restaurants. When we can't ignore chains because, face it or not, people go to chains. Consistency, et cetera, et cetera. We will do a story on a chain restaurant if it's a unique thing, but then we'll just do it's coming. You will not see us invest a lot of time because we really do want to focus on, shine the spotlight on local. Because Tucson has, we're a city of gastronomy. We've got a great food, community. And so if you have a good story, and again, there has to be a news angle. When you guys are pitching stories, there has to be a news angle. You're expanding, opening a new location. You're totally you're flipping the script and you're going to change your entire concept. That's a story. If you're marking a landmark anniversary, those are the kind of stories. And I juggle a lot of balls, and so I tell all of my sources, please be in my adult supervision. Because if you say, hey, call me on Monday and you don't send me a text or an email, I'm probably not going to call you on Monday because I have too many things going on. But that's my advice.
So there's a lot of common threads between Kathy's form of media and social media. Javier touched on SEO and finding the right type of keywords. So I recently did a video with Janos. I'm not sure if any of you saw that, but so we had a bit of a disagreement on the, I wouldn't even call it that, okay? It wasn't that dramatic. But so he wanted toughest ticket in town as the headlight, right? Which is great. It's an alliteration, it's catchy. But I kind of was like, it doesn't work on Instagram because it doesn't have those keywords, right? So I think I ended up going with like the hardest dinner reservation to get in Tucson. And it's awful. Like coming from a writer's perspective, I'm like, that's not catchy. But it's what Instagram picks up on. Reading that, your audience knows you target your right audience. It's obviously an audience that is interested in a culinary experience. So be very careful in the words that you use because it's a really good way to find your audience and how to get Instagram to find you. So it may not be the catchiest. It may, from a writer's perspective, it may not be the fanciest, but simplifying things down, letting people know exactly what they're going to watch is great. I guess a trend that I really like, I'm not a voiceover type of person. I don't like the way my voice sounds. So there's, I guess, the trend that I like is being able to use music as a background, capturing really aesthetic shots. Also important, learn how your food behaves. I think a lot of chefs know how to make the food, but they can't photograph their food, or they can't understand how the food looks on video. So studying your food from that visual aspect is also very important. Yeah, so aesthetic shots are kind of my thing. Good music is kind of my thing too. And yeah.
Questions from you guys that you may have?
Can I add just one more thing real quick?
Sure,
Guys,
sure.
And just please, like, step into these creatives on these platforms. People are always just starting out, or people are, and I know, like, sometimes it could seem annoying to have someone want to come in and shoot some pictures or whatever, but oftentimes these are the most hungry and ambitious. So if you get someone that, like, hits your DMs and says, I would love to come in and just create a reel, you don't have to post on your page, you don't have to do anything. But to allow them to spread to a different audience, most of the time it's free when they're just starting out and they want to learn a little bit from it. And you can also educate them on the proper etiquettes or whatever of doing this type of stuff. But step into these creatives that are doing it because it will only help you grow. A person that has 500 followers that is located within a mile radius of your restaurant will be 1,000,000 times more effective than that 150 million follower national chain. You may not ever see a customer, and you might see 300 people walk in from that little. So,
There's an interesting phrase that I remember the former CEO of Macy's, Terry Longrun. He comes to Tucson every year to a conference. And I remember once we were chatting at lunch, and we were talking about brand. And Terry said, I love brand awareness, but to me the most important is brand activation. When people tell me, oh, I know Macy's and I see your parade and it's a great, I'm like, oh, thank you, that's great. Because I love when people say, I shopped at Macy's last night. So brand awareness, for the world to know you, in someone in New Zealand liking your post, great. I would fly to Tucson to eat your food, well, who knows? You want that demographic, that group, that connection, and those collaborations. And I know Dave Levine from our team, he's back there getting some coffee. So make sure you're posting something in social media or stories as well. Contact Dave, he runs our social media to make sure that we're helping amplify some very cool messages. Catherine, you also have Tima Eats and you're doing some great work there. So make sure that we're collaborating. Questions that you may have, or pitches you want to have for anyone here? Like, hey,
I am curious.
Yes.
All right, so everyone gasped in horror about the phone call that Kathy mentioned, where it's like, I'm not interested in advertising. The elephant in the room with that comment is there is an enormous amount of pay-for-play stories, advertising in this market, and this is kind of the exception of versus the rule. And like most of the time, it is, oh, if you buy advertising, you're gonna, we'll create our best Brussels sprouts that could or could not involve bacon and or chiltepines that are served on a blue plate, and you'll be the best one in Tucson. So if you guys want to speak to some of that, because that is like a part of food stories and media and business models.
We don't do
I
the
know
food
you
store.
guys don't,
We
but
we
it,
don't
but it,
we don't.
but
Yeah.
it does exist in the world. So
Right.
pretending that like
100%.
pretending that doesn't impact
Oh
you
yeah.
because it's like
Huge.
a thing.
Huge.
So
We had to change up our entire model. When I took over Tucson Foodie about 2 years ago, nobody would talk to me. I mean, that's not totally true, but like most restaurants wouldn't talk to me because they thought, Gary was like, what's this guy with the hair all about? Is he homeless? Is he trying to be a wizard?
Both.
Homeless wizard?
You were both at the time.
He's just too busy to get his hair cut.
Airbnb.
And I hated it. I couldn't get restaurants to talk to me
Because you guys were pay for play.
because before I took over, Tucson Foodie would absolutely ask for money. Let's do $300 for a post, $500 for an article. And so I flipped the script on that because I wanted to show up and be friends with restaurants. I wanted them to take my calls. A lot of them were my friends. And I still struggle with it. I get ignored all the time. We get ignored all the time. I can't, like, even in person. Like, there's restaurants where, okay, I email, nothing. Well, fine. Okay, I'll DM them, nothing. I'll call. I get gatekeeped, to your point, right? I'm like, okay, should I give up on this restaurant? Because there are over 700 locally owned restaurants in town and even more food trucks. So, like, maybe I'll just turn my attention. No, okay, I'm going to go. Right? And I'll even get gatekeeped in life. And so I'm like, I just need to start screaming. We don't ask restaurants for money. We don't ask restaurants for money. So we developed an all trade partnership program for restaurants that wanted to get a little bit more love from us, where they give us vouchers that we then give to the members of our club. And that's how we make money now. We have a club. We join our club, and we're growing our company on the backs of diners. We take advertising money from anybody who isn't a locally owned restaurant. You don't have to be a restaurant partner to get love from us, right? And so I am trying to preach that from the mountaintops if I can. People still think I'm going to call them and ask for money, and it's a big problem for sure. It sucks, but I think we're doing something different, and it's going to take time. I'm trying to have patience. Help me get the word out, please. Did I answer your question?
sure. I mean, I was just curious because
Yeah.
it is like
Yeah.
if you want to. I don't want to name publications, but
Yeah, can
Yeah.
it's like
I want
it's
to.
more than one.
But like also you should be spending money on some damn
Yeah.
marketing. Like
Yeah.
so many restaurants don't understand the value of marketing. They just I make great food and then they open the door and nobody shows up. And it's like you need to be spending money on acquiring customers.
So as someone that's a creative agency, I mean, that's one thing that we battle with restaurant owners all the time. It's one thing is like, okay, yeah, but we spent $10,000 on a video from Stay Hun 8 on TV. It's a made up name. And it's not the name of the TV. We got a bunch of people to come in for a week, and it was great. And then we never saw anything again, and we spent $30,000 in the video. We don't know. And they said that it would get 4 million views, and they said this. Well, first off, there's not 4 million people in Tucson. Where do you think those are coming from, first off? But I think a big part of it is educating people on how to spend money. Kim has followers that literally, what is your turnout? 30% increase you usually see from one post. And she can track all that. She can see who's looking. She can see where they're at. You can see every single aspect of these people. So I think it's when I go in and talk to restaurant owners, I want them to understand the difference between how we do things and how they do things. While there might be some positives that come out of these things, I can tell you exactly who saw it, when they saw it, where they were standing, and everything that goes into that. So it does get kind of icky, but when I take time to sit down, I'm not a salesperson. I own my company. I'm not a salesperson that works here and then hangs it up at night. I have marketing clubs where some of my younger people are up till 4 a.m. and they can have owners say, hey, this really worked at 1 a.m. Let's do a flash sale or whatever. Like, these are direct contacts. So re-educating business owners, restaurant owners, club owners on how effective that dollar goes versus these blanketed ad spends and ad buys, I think is important.
I hope you're not relying on media to drive all of your business. I think as a lot of entrepreneurs in any industry, but especially in food, they're afraid of marketing or something. But you're a business owner. You're running a business. A business, by definition, is an organization that makes money, right? That's why it exists. You have to make money. You have to spend money to get customers. You need to be allocating some percentage of your revenue towards marketing every single month. You need to be experimenting. You have to be willing to put that hat on. You can't ignore that. It'll be to your own detriment. You signed up to be an entrepreneur. You need to understand marketing. Yeah, you can hire people, but you have to spend money on it.
Just a brief comment on that, on the marketing side. We sit on the tourism side. Years ago, the state of Colorado, they say, we don't need to promote Colorado. We're a great place. It's a beautiful destination. We have the Rocky Mountains skiing. They stopped advertising. They decided to, let's just shut our advertising. Let's take all that money somewhere else. And guess what happened? Visitation, tourism started to come down, down, down. They panicked. Of course, the year after, they went back and actually put more money to their marketing, and it took them like 2 years to recover, but they have lost. There's so much noise out there. There's so much competition. You need to put some of those dollars in advertising to make sure that you're telling your story. Sunday, check out the Super Bowl, and you're going to see people, companies spending millions of dollars in at-time production, and they're top of the world. Coca-Cola's going to have 2 or 3 commercials, and they're going to still be selling #1 product in the world, still spending money in advertising. So definitely something that you have to do, and you can be very creative. If you have a chance, not right now, when you leave this room, go to YouTube and look for Baev, B-A-E-V. There's this kid that has a show in Comedy Central 4 years ago. He did an experiment for marketing. And this is pre-pandemic, he was selling a used tissue paper that someone will sneeze, put in a box, and ship it to you so you can use it and build your autoimmune system. For $80 per piece. Look at it, B-A-E-V. If not at the end, come and see me, I'll show you the video. It's crazy how he was able, through marketing, get people to actually buy a product that was, but again, he never delivered it. But anyway, Gloria, do you have a question here in the front? Am I right or not?
Yes.
Yes, and it's back there in the early track. Wait me when we have to wrap it up, okay?
Our
Sorry.
product, it's not a restaurant. I hear you guys talking about restaurants. Our product, I sell chiltepines. It's chiltepica. And it's a very unique product, like all of our products here. You can open the box. Look.
I was gonna bring a sample.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can open the box.
Just give it to me.
No, actually,
Those are soft, but yeah,
this is our new product
new
coming out.
product coming. That's a story, Kathy. New product coming
New
in.
product
But yeah.
And I'm trying to, I don't have a storefront. And several stores in town carry our products, and I have a couple in the Valley area in Phoenix. But I want to build our online store, and it's been really hard. I have not hired anybody at this point. I'm doing everything that I can and look for avenues to do it, and I need your card.
Yes.
After this. So I'm trying to build my online story. Like I said, Chiltepín is a local product to the Sonora, Arizona desert area. So it's a very unique to our area here. And any suggestions for you guys? For me?
You say you're trying to build your online store.
Uh-huh.
So you're trying to launch an e-commerce store. Okay, have you done that before?
Yeah, I have it online right now.
I mean, have you ever built an e-commerce store before building this one for yourself?
Yes.
You have background in that? Okay, so you know what you're doing.
Not really.
Okay. So how much is your time worth? If I wanted to hire you as a consultant, what's your hourly rate? $25 an hour, $100 an hour?
Oh my God.
How much time are you spending on building this online store that's not working?
It's not working, so I need to hire someone.
I think you might.
One thing that's great is you are in places that do have brick and mortars, right? So you yourself do not have a brick and mortar, but the great thing I've learned about Tucson is we're not too competitive of a place, right? We're very collaborative. You look at Visit Tucson's model, it's a lot of collaborations with creators, with businesses. So I would really tap into that where you collaborate with the restaurants or the places, the storefronts that you sell with, because then you're tapping into their audience, right? So I would definitely try that avenue. Talk to the people that you work with at whatever storefront you do. Ask their social media managers, like, hey, can we collaborate on a post? And there's a lot you can do at home. You don't need a studio. You don't need so I did a little video for a home-based bakery the other day. and my table didn't quite fit like their vibe, right? So I used my 5-year-old daughter's dress as a tablecloth. And I used like this, like 4 inches, 5 inches of a table, and it turned out beautifully. It performs all right. So there's, as a home business, you can do a lot with very little. And from that, with the people who have big audiences, like ask them. I'm sure they'll be happy to help.
Yeah,
So-
what, how are you getting new clients? How are you getting new customers?
The stores, I go knock on their door and
Okay.
present my product.
Cool.
And people have been very receptive here in Tucson to carry our products.
Nice. Social media wise? Nothing.
Nothing
What's the story? What's your story?
about social media,
No, about
about Chief the Beans.
About you and this
what
product.
what problem is your product solving?
It's my story is that we started selling actually we started selling salsa because a couple of friends lost their homes, and my husband and I started thinking, if this economy keeps on, and what would be our problem.
Okay, so stop right there. It should be everywhere.
I'm suddenly interested in you. I've seen this everywhere, but I've never met you
don't
before.
need. We used to shoot all of our. So we're an agency. We do this for everyone, and we used to think that it needed to be 4K and these crazy cameras with lighting perfect and everything. It doesn't. It's your emotion. All of you just started to get into it, and I was the most excited that you got about this whole thing. Selling that excitement is almost 20 times more important than that. Then they get the product, and it's amazing. And it's made from Mailita, and it's everything that I think that it should be. But I need that story in front of everyone. So it's my job to create content that matches that matches you, and that everyone in here feels like they're Latino when they put that on their tortillas.
Yeah, Gloria, I see this everywhere, but I've never seen you. I've never met you. So
So-
I didn't know the meaning behind this. Like,
Interesting story about your product. I took this to a event with chefs, and I was telling them the story about where it's from, how it's harvested, and when you get in there.
Yeah.
At the end of the conference, there were chefs chasing me, asking me, "Can I take one pepper?" Like, no, I have a little
To Macau?
drop to China. Yeah. So Governor of Hong Kong, I was not smuggling 40 things in a suitcase. They just told me to keep walking and don't look at customs, just move over. It was fascinating.
You should do a whole story on the chiltepin because it is one of the most perfect peppers. It's underknown, it's underrated, it is, indigenous
Should
to
you do a
Tucson.
story? You know what I mean?
And we really could leverage the chiltepin to elevate the food story of Tucson.
yeah, totally.
And Erica's here kind of like standing next to me. There's one question back there I want to call you guys off. Anyone was raising their
I
hand?
got a question. That's a perfect segue. I was going to ask a little bit more about the food story of Tucson itself. So Shane, it's kind of funny when you described all the dirt. That's pretty similar to how Toby described Tucson to me when we met. It's like
Yeah.
in Phoenix, it's landscape, in Tucson, it's dirt. So
Yeah.
So I'm curious
Yeah.
what all of your take is on what's really unique about Tucson and our food scene, and what makes you love being a part of kind of the food storytelling in this country.
Mm. I'm trying to prioritize the list in my brain. I really want to say the people, but that seems like a cop-out, and there are great people in every city in the world that all have amazing stories. But I think it could be a competitive advantage because you don't see a lot of stories really or cities as a community agreeing to lean into that when they're trying to tell their city's story kind of nationally and globally. So we could use that as a competitive advantage. We have some amazing people here. We do have some differentiators that other cities can't talk about, like the way that and I'm just learning this, and I always feel like I'm going to use the wrong language, but the way that our current culinary scene and small business community is rooted in like incredibly ancient wisdom and indigenous knowledge. Like, sure, some cities can talk about it, but we can talk about it in a way that others can't, and we can go back farther than most cities can't, especially in this country, right? I think don't we have the oldest standing building in the entire country? Older than, like, I thought America started Plymouth Rock, no, Shane, you're an idiot. Absolutely not, right? Spanish came and built San Xavier Mission well before those folks landed over there, right? So that building is quite older than anything in like the oldest cities in this country. This is the oldest, we call it the old Pueblo, right? So it makes sense. So we can lean into that. We have beautiful people, we can lean into that. We do have a unique cuisine. We've got the chiltepin. We have unique ingredients. We have unique, and a lot of people are doing really interesting with things with heritage grains, like rediscovering this as if it never existed before. And like that people care about. That's really interesting stuff. It tastes delicious. It's more nutritious. It's more sustainable. People do care about it. There's all kinds of studies that say if when people find out something is more sustainable, they literally will spend 30% more on it. Right? I just was hanging out with the guy who makes plastic straws and cups out of byproduct of tequila, the agave pulp. Right? And I'm like, man, like, how much more expensive is your straw? He's like, dude, my straws help restaurants make money. What are you talking about? I'm selling revenue. And then I listened to his pitch, and I was like, oh, wow, I get it. That's why he turned that company when he took over the sales role from like 20 accounts to 65 accounts, because he walks in and says, hey, you want to increase your bottom line? Buy my straws. And then he explains how that actually works, and it does work. I don't know, did I answer your question? We do have some competitive advantages. I don't think we actually lean into them. I think we're afraid to lean into them, but we should.
Yeah. So if you have an opportunity, go to visittucson.org, search brand, and you'll see 10 years ago we went through a brand program for Tucson, and there were some amazing research done for how visitors look Tucson and what they appreciate from our community. And it was fascinating to look at what locals think and what visitors. And that's a segue to let you know, by the way, that yesterday we issued an RFP for a new brand. We're going to be refreshing the Visit Tucson brand, and it's going to be it's not a logo, it's not a slogan. It has to do with the personality, it has to do with the culture, the essence. It'll take several months to build it, but we're excited about this new program exercise. That being said, we don't have to go anywhere, like closing time. You can stay here around Chad.
Absolutely, yeah.
We
Folks
wanna-
are welcome to say, but first, for that, I would love to give the panel a huge hand. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'll add on just to that last question. One of the things that makes Tucson great is I think this community is extraordinary in terms of people who are willing to lend their expertise, their advice, stories about what they've done, what they've seen work to help each other. And I think that is one of the things that really does make Tucson extraordinary.